Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is the 11th of October, 2019. Do you know what last night was? The most epic Trump rally in the history of Trump rally, funded entirely by the Russians. I could not stop laughing. There were like several times where I stood up like I was watching a sports game. Like I almost peed in my pants.
We're going to move on to a little bit of the Democrat town hall last night, the LGBTQ.
Right.
There was an article, maybe Michelle, you can bring up. I shared it on Facebook. She's from a feminist talking about this, and her words were quite possibly the best about what's happening to children.
On your Facebook or on Resistance Chicks?
On Resistance Chicks.
Okay.
So this person says, this is child abuse. Your kid says they want to start shooting heroin. You're going to call a dealer. Your kid says that they want to take a fifth of Henny to the head. You're going to go to the liquor store. And here is a 9-year-old saying that they are going to transition, or they're transitioning, or whatever they're doing to themselves. That's
is this one it?
Yeah, and you can bring it up. Maybe you can scroll through and read a little bit of it.
Transgender youth and active with the Human Rights Campaign. Jacob and his mom, Mimi, who's an advocate for transgender youth and active with the Human Rights Campaign.
So she was already an activist, and suddenly her daughter becomes a dude.
Right.
And she's proud.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob is an elementary school student from Massachusetts, likes to play hockey. Jacob.
All right, Jacob. My name is Jacob, and I'm a 9-year-old transgender American. My question is... All right, Jacob. Hold on. What will you do in your first week as president to make sure that kids like me feel safer in schools? And what do you think schools need to do better to make sure that I don't have to worry about anything but my homework?
Oh, I like that question, Jacob.
Okay, this is, go ahead, bring up the article, because maybe if I read it from a world-renowned feminist, then maybe you won't think I'm hateful.
Okay. Do you want me to read it?
This is Camille Paglia. She is a professor of humanities and media studies at the University of Arts in Philadelphia. She's a well-known feminist. She offered her remarks on Tuesday's edition of Dennis Prager's, how do you even say that?
Eponymous
radio show, while discussing her latest book, Provocations, Collective Essays on Art, Feminism, Politics, Sex, and Education. What's very interesting to me is she says that in the article, and I can kind of just skim it because I read it, or just tell you, go over it. She says that she never felt like a woman or a female.
Right.
And if this nonsense, she kind of calls it, had been around, she would have just really been forever messed up. Mm-hmm. But she wrote this book in which she questioned her own kind of gender, and it was kind of like, she kind of was figuring things out in her 20s. But if somebody had started to fill her with hormones and things like that, what would have happened to her?
She says, I think that experiments of unproven drug protocols on children is a crime against humanity, and it should not be tolerated. It amazes me there is hardly any media attention to this matter. I think the future will look back with surprise and shock at the ethical indifference of the major media right now in the United States to this going on. It is simply not right. These drugs have not been fully tested, and we're using children as experiments. Boys forever are going to have, in adulthood, a child-sized penis. I cannot believe that this is happening without protest.
And then go ahead, read the next line.
Don't imagine that the child knows his or her future identity at age 3 or 10 for that matter. Flash freezing a child's development through the introduction of drugs, pre-puberty on and so on, seems to me should be recognizably not just wrong, but horrific.
And then go ahead.
This one right here.
Read
she says, Paglia reflected on her own gender dysphoria, on how her maturation may have unfolded differently had she been exposed to ubiquitous contemporary left-wing characterizations of sex as a purely social construct. If all this was in the air when I was young, I would have become absolutely convinced that I was really a man. And I think I would have probably been vulnerable to that fantasy until my mid-20s, probably. And completing my massive 700-page book, Sexual Persona, in a sense exercised that, meaning to cast it out. Right from the start in 1990, I was describing that book as a transgender construction. It's a voice. It's an other self. I've never felt female, but I don't feel male either. I would have been obsessed.
She says, I feel like she said she can say that prescribing puberty blockers to children is a violation of human rights.
I could not agree more.
And
so well
I think that, number one, we don't know what's happening with these puberty blockers. Number two, a boy does not know what it means to be a man or to do things with his manhood until it's fully developed. And so when you take that away, then you're really going to mess with his head. The same things with females. If you flood them with testosterone, they're not, and it's easier to detransition, I think, from the male back to female.
Yeah.
But when you haven't gone, if you're a male and you transition to female, that's a whole nother crazy thing to try to detransition from. You're like forever scarred. You know, it's really I think sad, it's child abuse. Definitely.
It is child abuse. It's total child abuse. And these people don't care that they are experimenting on children.
So Beto O'Rourke last night said that he would take away tax-exempt status from any church who does not believe in same-sex marriage.
Do you think religious institutions like colleges, churches, charities, should they lose their tax-exempt status if they oppose same-sex marriage?
Yes.
He is so very evil. Like, it's hard to quantify Beto O'Rourke. Okay, he is extreme. Like he's a provocateur. You know, that's what he does. He's trying to make himself relevant by making himself irrelevant.
Okay,
irrelevant.
But at the same time, what this also shows me is not just a misunderstanding on Beto O'Rourke's part, but it's everyone. But as someone that's running for president, he should understand the laws of the 501c3.
Yeah.
And actually, it is a misnomer that churches can only talk about politics up to 5%. No church has ever been prosecuted for political speech. Ever. Okay. The law that was put in there, you have to go back and you have to look at it. You can go to David Barton and you can do your own research on this. But churches are actually exempt from not being able to talk about politics with their 501c3. Okay. And so he has zero understanding of what a 501c3 status is.
And he has zero understanding on freedom of religion in this country.
Right.
We have freedom of religion on purpose in this country.
Yeah.
And doing that would literally be government mandated religion.
Yeah.
The idea of separation of church, that is not separation of church and state. You know what I mean? Like
separation of church and state was actually to keep the government from interfering with the church.
That's why I'm saying
and not the other way around.
That's why I'm saying that is actually separate. That is actually inclusion. That's the state telling a church what you can and cannot believe and teach.
Right.
It's absolutely insane. So I think I had a couple more craziness going on from that one. I know that Kamala Harris came out and said, well, I can just bring her up because and Chris Cuomo had to come out and apologize. So I'm just going to bring that up. Not woke enough. We're going to get Kamala Harris's genders up. I'm sure it's going to be the first one that comes up. Let's see.
I think that when we listen to these people, you have to understand that they literally don't know what they're talking about.
No.
It's not even just that they're evil and they're lying, and that is part of it, but they don't know the Constitution. They don't care. They just literally are wanting to make up laws and make up rules and say, well, this is what I believe is right, and so this is now going to become law.
Okay, watch. Listen to this.
Good to see you, Senator. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
How are you? And
It's hard to watch her, isn't it?
and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
She, her, and her.
It's embarrassing.
All right.
All right, first question.
Okay,
So
but,
he says mine too.
so that's kind of sounds like it's making fun
He
of it,
had to
though.
apologize. He had to come out and say I was insensitive.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not even kidding you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but
Yeah.
I don't think that these people quite get how condescending it is for her to come out and say that.
Oh, I know.
Okay? I mean, it's just so like, I'm going to do this for you little people. Watch what I do for you. Let me sprinkle my little magic fairy dust, and all of a sudden you're going to think that I care about you.
Okay, so not only can you not misgender somebody, but if you mispronounce their name, that is violence.
It's violence.
Yeah.
And next, Secretary Castro, I want to bring in Shay Diamond, a singer-songwriter from Los Angeles. She currently supports Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Shay, what's your question?
It's she a diamond.
She a Diamond.
Put that on the record.
Okay. It's on the record. Thank you.
Yes, honey, it's violence to misgender or to alter a name of a trans person. So let's always get that right first.
Oh my goodness.
Or it's violence to alter the name of a trans person. So get that right first.
Okay, so, but what if you're reading the name for a first time and...
It's she a diamond. Put that on record.
Okay, but that's a really ingenious name for a transgender, because she a diamond.
I know.
That is just epic. That's like a license plate, like a vanity license plate that you thought up. That was
Yep.
really great.
Yep, definitely. All right, so we're gonna move on a little bit here. I think somebody actually put together I didn't brought this up. I think somebody put together all of Trump's funny moments. I think we kind of
Did they
played most
really
of
though?
them.
Because that could be really fun.
We did. I think we played most of
Are
them.
you sure?
Let's see.
How long is it? That looks long. That's the
All right.
whole rally.
No, it was
It's
started
2
here.
hours.
It started
It's like
here.
5 minutes.
All right,
5
okay.
hours long.
Okay, so we're okay.
If you missed Trump's rally, just literally watch it from start to finish. Just go find it and watch it when you're done here. Go find it and watch it from start to finish. It really was epic. It was pure comedy gold. He is a stand-up comedian, and who knew?
Shepard Smith is out at Fox News.
Yeah.
Now he hated Trump so much.
Who are we gonna have that deep?
But what I
Shepard
love
was
is that the
now?
Daily Mail has it out. So breaking, Shepard Smith is out at Fox News effectively immediately after being with the network since its inception in 1996. Shepard Smith is leaving Fox News after joining the network in 1996. He announced on Friday. This comes just 18 months after Smith signed a multi-year deal with the network. He was brought in to audition for a spot on the cable news network after Roger Ailes saw his coverage for Fox affiliates during the O.J. Simpson trial. The sudden move comes after the anchor was both praised and derided over the past 3 years for his criticism of President Donald Trump. When asked about Smith's departure on Friday by the Daily Mail, President Trump said, "Is he leaving because of bad ratings? Is he leaving because of me?" He was 55, said that he was looking forward to spending more time with his partner and their dog. His partner's 31, he's 55. Multiple sources told Daily Mail that Smith's departure was a complete surprise to employees at the network, and he was escorted out. That's what I want to get to. You don't escort somebody out unless you've been fired. You don't say, Hang
on, though. You don't just escort somebody out just because they were fired either, though. You
Well-
only escort somebody out if, like, you're afraid that they're going to, like, steal something or they've caused a scene or something. But let's point out, hang on one more time.
And his assistant has deleted their LinkedIn profile.
Okay, so I'm not going to be here to judge heterosexual marriages, but I am going to point out that when you see in homosexual couples someone who is 55 with somebody that is 31, it just goes to lend itself to the predominantly desired father figure and pedophilia relationships that are in male homosexual relationships. You find it all the time.
We're done. We're off the air.
What do you mean we're off the air?
That's going to be censored whenever we allow back on.
You know what? Oh, well. It was worth it.
Mr. President,
it's
you
true.
and your administration pressure Fox News to get rid of Shepard Smith.
No, I don't know. Is he leaving? Oh, that's a shame.
Why did Bill Barr keep it
That I don't know. Wait, did I hear Shepard Smith is leaving? Is he leaving because of bad ratings? Now tell me, I don't know. He had terrible ratings. Is he leaving because of his ratings? I mean, if he's leaving, I assume he's leaving because he had bad ratings. He had the worst ratings on Fox, so there's a reason. Why is Shepard Smith leaving? Well, I wish him well. I wish Shepard Smith well.
He is the iconic. He is the iconic politician. He always knows how to turn it around, which the rest of us do not. I loved this video here from Ron Paul because Ron Paul has been really harsh on Trump, and we're going to talk about Syria here because Trump's speech, and I think I should bring up that clip there, but I want to play this first. I think from Ron Paul. Trump is not being treated fairly, to say the least, and I'm glad that Ron Paul is kind of calling this out.
Trump cannot depend on the media. I think he sort of annoys them a little bit, and they don't like him very well. So they're not going to report the truth. But what'll be interesting, Trump can be on the internet, but that doesn't mean that he's going to reach all the people that he has to reach. He has a lot of money in the bank, money that he's collected fair and square, and he needs to get this message out. Now, he can buy ads, and my advice would be spend some of this and get the message out telling the truth. I think most Americans are probably sick and tired of all this, and they want to go on to the election or something like that. But I think they're also interested in the truth, and that is that they shouldn't have anonymous challengers to do this. They want a fair hearing, and right now this is not a fair hearing, and I don't know if I have the right or so to tell Trump what to do, because I think he knows what to do. But he needs to get the message out and work on this. He's already mentioned about he ought to have the right to face his accusers.
Yep.
You know, you could spend all day just telling people that because they're going to agree to that. So I think a simple, clear message of honesty and a fair trial and get ability where the president can face his accusers would go a long way to tell him what the principles ought to be, and it might settle the score. And the worst demagoguery, and I've mentioned this before, is when you get a person like Pelosi getting up and with tears in her eyes, I don't really want to have to do this, but I think so much about my Constitution and freedom and justice, I'm going to have to press charges to get rid of this individual, this president. That's pretty bad. So we're working on the idea that truth wins out in the end, and that's what our goal is, because I do believe and have a lot of faith in the American people that they like peace and they like liberty. They just have to have it offered up, and they have to have a reason to reject so much of the nonsense that they hear.
That's a good point. So I have a couple thoughts on that, but first, Patriot Gathering says that Ron Paul is in the new blog. Mm-hmm. That would be on www.resistancechicks.blogspot.com. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had to think about that for a second. But when he was, he's talking about Trump's right to face his accusers. That is critical. They're trying to tell Trump that he not only does he have to cooperate with this whatever investigation that they're doing, but they're not going to let Trump investigate any of the accusers. Now, I don't know if we have covered or not the fact that it was breaking last night. I think Hannity was going to break it, but he didn't get a chance to. That this whistleblower worked with Joe Biden and flew on the plane with him at least one time to Ukraine. This is the whistleblower that Trump's not supposed to be able to face. Now, one more thing I want to hit on is the ads that he mentioned. I think it was talked about on Fox yesterday or the day before that Trump has raised like more money, I think, almost than any politician ever this early on, meaning, okay, not like ever, but this early on in his campaign. Now, what's so beautiful about that is that Trump is going to be able to, and Trump, I think, actually mentioned it, that they're going to be putting a lot of ads out. Fortunately or unfortunately, fortunately for us, the American people are very, very impressionable. If you see a commercial for Burger King, you want a Whopper. When you listen to things that are on the television, you believe them that they're true just because you heard it come out of the speaker. So the more ads that Trump can put out, he is going to literally wipe the floor with these people because he has more support this early on than any presidential candidate has ever had. It's incumbent or not. You know, people were like really in the middle with Obama. A lot of people that voted for him for his second term, they were like, I'm not really sure. They were kind of on the fence. The same exact thing with Clinton. Trump's base has gone nowhere, and it's actually expanding thanks to Candace Owens and Blexit and, oh shoot, what's his name? And the Walk Away movement. The Walk Away campaign. What is his name? It's killing me. Brandon Straka. So this should be epic. With when Ron Paul's talking about all this money that he has, Trump is going to be putting these ads out.
Oh, I'm sure of it. I'm not sure if this is the right clip, but when he talks about Syria, he's explaining his pull out from Syria.
Phone call as an example with the president of Ukraine was perfect. Everybody that looked at it, and the only reason I released it was that the Democrats put out a phony narrative. So I had no choice, and I don't want to do that as president. Every time a president from a country calls me or I call them, we have to release the text. How can you do business that way? Who's going to want to speak to your president? So now the Democrats are making a pathetic bid to save Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe Biden. He was only a good vice president because he understood how to kiss Barack Obama's ass.
Bleep. That was my briefing.
Congresswoman Omar is an America-hating socialist.
So these are the highlights.
She minimized the September 11th attack on our homeland, where far more than 3,000 people died, saying some people did something. Big deal. Some people did something. Representative Omar has a history of launching virulent anti-Semitic screeds, whether you like it or not. So in the case of Turkey and Syria and the Kurds, we could send in 1,000 troops for a military conflict with Turkey. No, you don't want to do that. We could hit Turkey very hard financially. Or we could mediate a deal between Turkey and the Kurds. I like that. You know, let's mediate a deal. We were supposed to be in Syria for 30 days. We've now been there for 10 years.
It's incredible.
We were supposed to be in Afghanistan for a short period of time. We're now going to be there for close to 19 years. It's time to bring them home.
I love that part. It is time to bring them home. Oh my gosh. Like, that's a no-brainer for me. Oh, did they have... Shoot. I wish you had the clip right before that. Where, and maybe I'll just tell you, but I'm not going to give you the emotional response that I had. Trump went into deep detail describing what happens when these young men and service women that have given their lives on the battlefield, when they come home in the coffin with the flags draped over them, he's been there and he sees these parents. And he was talking, I don't remember who he was talking to, who had brought him there for the first time. And he's like, listen, you're not ready for what's going to happen, because it's what happens to these people. They may be fine until that coffin comes, and they literally lose their mind because that's their son and that's their daughter in that coffin. Okay. And we're just talking about lives that are actually lost. Not to mention the maimed, people that have lost limbs or are injured or have PTSD. Their lives are irrevocably changed. Do you know how many divorces happen after somebody comes back from fighting in a war currently? It's horrific. And so Trump's like, listen, It's the hardest thing. We write these letters individually because I don't want it to be some blanket letter, because these families get together and they talk, and I don't want them to compare their letters and say, oh, we all got this like blanket cover letter. It is individually written because these people gave their lives, and Trump's like, and everybody's telling me to put more troops, to put more troops. Well, they're not the ones that are writing the letters. They're not the ones that are consoling the parents who have lost their children's lives. They're not the ones working at the VA, okay, dealing with these injuries and stuff.
I will tell you,
that's not the right one.
The hardest thing I have to do, by far,
he repeated himself at the rally.
Much harder than the witch hunt, is signing letters to parents of soldiers that
so he's explaining why he's kind of pulling our troops home.
Have been killed. And it's not only that, in areas where there's not a lot of upside, if there's any upside at all, and in many cases there's only downside. And especially when that soldier was killed in a blue on green attack. You know what that is, right? That's where a soldier being trained or whatever turns his gun on an American soldier. Here, son, take your gun. You know how to use it. And he takes the gun and he turns it and he shoots one. We have many of them in Afghanistan, in particular in Afghanistan. The hardest thing I have to do is signing those letters. That's the hardest thing I have to do. And each letter is different. We make each letter different. And last week I signed 5 of them for Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq, 1 in Syria from 2 weeks ago. And sometimes I call the parents. Sometimes I see the parents. I go to Dover when I can, but it's so devastating for the parents that, you know, it's so devastating when they bring that boy or young woman out of the back of those big, powerful planes in a coffin, and the parents are there. You know, we have people that do that. That's what they do. They work that. They accommodate everybody. That's what they do. They do an incredible job. And I said, the parents seem to be okay. I'll get there early. The parents seem to be okay. Well, actually, sir, they aren't. No, the way they're talking, they're really okay, aren't they? Sir, you never know until the back of that massive cargo plane opens up and they walk down holding a coffin with 4 or 5 great soldiers on each side of it, representing our various forces. That you never know. And then I see it, and I see people that were smiling. Oh, Mr. President, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. And I think they're doing great. And then 20 minutes later, we'll be outside when that big plane pulls up and that door comes down. And they are walking the coffin with their boy inside this coffin with an American flag over the top. And they're walking that coffin down this ramp. And I've seen people that I thought were really incredible the way they would. I didn't even understood how they could take it so well. Scream like I've never seen anything before. Sometimes they'll run to the coffin. They'll break through military barriers. They'll run to the coffin and jump on top of the coffin, crying, mothers and wives crying desperately. And this is on these endless wars that just never stop. And there's a time and there's a place, but it's time to stop.
Thank you.
And just to finish, last Friday I went to Walter Reed and I gave out 5 Purple Hearts to incredible young men, in this case, all men. And they took a beating. Beautiful people, they took a beating. One couldn't be there because the beating was so great that he was at a totally different part of the world. He lost a leg, he lost an arm. Ryan, he had tremendous damage beyond even what these young folks went through. But I'll tell you what, for me, it's very hard when I see that. It's very hard. It's easy to talk tough, you know, tough guys, all these tough guys. Let's keep fighting, let's keep fighting. If they had to go to Walter Reed, where they do unbelievable work, I have to tell you, these doctors are unbelievable. You know, it's easy to say, oh, they're the best in the world. I've never seen anything like it. One young man last week had his nose rebuilt. And they said it was in 1,000 pieces. And I said, so where were you hurt? He said, my face, sir, was almost obliterated. I said, "You have a better face than I do." He said, "Sir, I had a doctor who was unbelievable." And they put it together. He said 1,000 fragments. Now, I don't know if that's even possible, but 1,000 fragments. And they put it together. And his father, who was crying, came up to me and said, "You're not going to believe this, but my son didn't have a great-looking nose, and now his nose is better." Okay, it's an amazing thing. But when you see these at the Purple Hearts, you see this kind of thing, and I see a lot of it at Walter Reed. And again, the job those doctors and the people do at Walter Reed, it's something to be commended. Thank you all very much.
So, go ahead. Well, after I heard that story, because you're right, I gave the exact same thing last night, I'm like, this is a no-brainer. And it just goes to show, we hear all of this stuff from this woman right here, okay? And those like her on the left. Not one more school shooting. But you're sure fine if they make it out of school and they go over and you send them to Afghanistan for them to get blown to pieces. You're fine to send them over there. You're fine to kill them after they've gotten out of high school with you're so focused on gun control. No one should have a gun but the military. Nobody should. Well, you know what, Miss I am Native American. You didn't learn anything the last time the government had all the guns and your people that are not really your people didn't have guns. Voted in socialism. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Under Chavez.
And then they get dictatorship with it. Right. You really think that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Beto O'Rourke don't want to be your dictator? Right. They absolutely want to dictate your life. They want to become a thug. They are thugs. Thugs come and steal your ability to defend yourself.
And when you fight back, they take your weapons. And when they take your weapons, they put you in jail. Right. And then they harm you and they take your kids from you.
Right. And they censor you. They make sure that you can't speak out. That's what thugs do. And that's what socialism is. And that's what they want. Yeah. They want that.
They want the power.
And that's why they cut Rand off.
With AOC, and you see it with Bernie Sanders. And so we are literally at the precipice of Americans who have been so brainwashed. And you have to hand it to the communists who have been infiltrating public schools since the 1920s. Yeah. They have a full 25 or 30% of the country believing that this socialism is a good thing, that communism, which led to the deaths of over 100 million people, is actually a good thing. Right.
All right, so I think it's been a great show. If you missed the first half, it was hilarious, covering Trump's Minneapolis.
Just a minute.
We're almost finished here. Okay. We're almost finished. It was really, really fun. And I think that tonight was a great show. Good job, Leah. Well done. Join us back
the news
on
took care of itself.
Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our European and UK news from around the world. Thank you to everybody that joined. Thank you to all of our moderators. We love you guys. Remember to send us your letters. We'll read them on air. P.O. Box 107, Milford, Ohio 45150. You can also find us on resistancechicks.com, BitChute, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the places you can get to us. So we love you guys. God loves you.
Do you want to read any comments before we sign off?
No song, Maya says. We did a whole thing. We did a whole sing.
We have a cousin's dog here tonight, and she's getting 60%. Casey Holmes says 60% of $60,000 is $36,000 in taxes.
Thank you for that. That's absolutely
Ben
ridiculous.
Shapiro is going all gangsta.
Yep.
Go scroll up just a little bit. I want to see if anybody's saying anything. Mom.
Britbot says, Michelle, the UK pays taxes on everything we do and buy, from income taxes, death taxes, on everything, from food, clothes, cars, fuel, insurance, so on and so on and so on.
Mom says, Revolutionary War was over tax on gold and silver coins. Without gold and silver, the government owns you. The Federal Reserve owns you. Gold and silver coins. Then you are free. You're the protection of the Constitution. Jim West says, yep, Baza, that is why the left say the NHS is free health care, but it really is not. Yep. Wicked Psych says, in my state, we pay sales tax, property tax, federal tax, state tax, excise tax, income tax, tax on any interest on saved money, and double income tax if you inherit money that was already taxed.
Well said.
Rand Paul was wasting time going on that. Denmark's
I don't know,
average...
because any publicity is good publicity. It'll get people to read the book, and then they might learn something.
Says Denmark average wage is $43,000. America's is more like $30,000.
Maya says it's 11% where she lives.
Wow. So 24% VAT over here, 25% in Sweden. Yeah, UN Agenda 21, the removal of 80% of humans, etc. And Navarro is a Democrat. There you go. Connect your exercise bike to the freezer in Kansas to pedal it to keep it powered. I notice they don't want people to have their own power in their home. They want you to need to purchase the power.
And that's really interesting because all of these people that are selling these solar panels, like you said, it hooks you up to the grid and you don't have a battery. And so you are still up a creek without a paddle when the power goes out.
All right, guys. So there we go. You guys are really doing a lot of good comments.
No, it was great.
Tonight.
And speaking of comments, we love it when you guys actually take all of your great comments. The more comments we get after the fact, not just in the live chat, but on the video, it puts our video out there better. Okay. So take all of your good comments, go and copy them and put them on the video after it processes, please.
Yep. We love you guys. Thanks for being here.
Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory if it's actually the truth. So we love you and we will see you back here on Sunday. Bye, guys.
Let's go.